मंत्री जी ने भी बोला हर एक क्षेत्र में भारत ने बहुत तरक्की।
और सीधे आपको विज्ञान भवन टीजी कॉन्क्लेव में ले चलते हैं, जहां पर वित्त मंत्री अपना संबोधन दे रही हैं।
प्रसार भारती के मुख्य कार्यकारी अधिकारी श्री गौरव द्विवेदी जी को कि कृपया वो ट्राइबल आर्ट के प्रतीक चिन्ह के साथ कार्यक्रम की मुख्य अतिथि वित्त मंत्री श्रीमती निर्मला सीतारमण जी का स्वागत और सम्मान करें। जोरदार तालियां सम्मान और स्वागत के समय। देवियों और सज्जनों, आगे बढ़ने से पहले हम आपको आज के इस नेशनल कॉन्क्लेव में दिन भर हुए कार्यक्रम की जानकारी देना चाहते हैं। आज के उद्घाटन सत्र के मुख्य अतिथि हमारे बीच में मौजूद रहे और तमाम 9 साल के कार्यक्रमों को लेकर एक पुस्तक का विमोचन भी किया गया।
Honorable Chief Guest Madam, this was followed by very engrossing and enriching 3 thematic sessions titled Surging Ahead, Jan Jan Ka Vishwas, Yuva Shakti, Galvanizing India. The 3 sessions had a presence of highly powered panel and highly accomplished personalities from varied fields.
बीते 9 वर्षों के प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी के प्रयासों को सफल बनाने में बड़ी भूमिका निभाने वाले केंद्रीय मंत्री श्री अनुराग सिंह ठाकुर जी को अब हम आमंत्रित करना चाहते हैं। कृपया वो आएं और इस मौके पर हम सभी को संबोधित करें। माननीय अनुराग सिंह ठाकुर जी।
किसी भी कार्यक्रम के वैलेडिक्टरी फंक्शन में, समारोह में पूरे दिन के बाद इतना जोश हो तो अपने आप में दिखाता है कि कार्यक्रम कितना सफल हुआ है। और जब मोदी जी के 9 वर्षों के कार्यकाल पर कोई कार्यक्रम हो रहा हो और उस कार्यक्रम की मुख्य अतिथि कोई और नहीं, देश की माननीय वित्त मंत्री आदरणीय निर्मला सीतारमण जी, सूचना प्रसारण विभाग के हमारे राज्य मंत्री आदरणीय डॉक्टर एल मुरुगन जी, सचिव अपूर्व चंद्र जी, प्रसार भारती के सीईओ गौरव द्विवेदी जी, उपस्थित सभी माननीय अधिकारीगण, सभी सम्मानित अतिथि और मेरे युवा साथियों और मीडिया से आए हुए मेरे प्रिय मित्रों, मैं सबसे पहले तो आप सबकी ओर से इस कार्यक्रम की शोभा बढ़ाने के लिए और हमारा निमंत्रण स्वीकार करने के लिए मैं निर्मला सीतारमण जी का बहुत बहुत स्वागत और अभिनंदन आप सबकी ओर से करता हूं। आज से 10 साल पहले जब मैं भारतीय जनता युवा मोर्चा का अध्यक्ष भी था, सांसद भी था, तो देश भर में जाकर एक ही देखने को मिलता था। लगभग 10 साल पहले, 2013 की बात कर रहा हूं। देश और दुनिया में भारत की छवि एक ऐसी दिखती थी कि एक दिन के बाद दूसरा नया भ्रष्टाचार सामने आता था। युवाओं का अपना भविष्य अंधकार में नजर आता था। लोगों को लगता था ना नेता है ना नीति है, और नीयत में भी खोट नजर आता था। और उस समय उम्मीद की किरण के रूप में, एक होप, रे ऑफ होप के रूप में प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी उस समय गुजरात के मुख्यमंत्री थे। उनका नाम आगे आया एक उम्मीदवार के रूप में भारतीय जनता पार्टी की ओर से। और जो 30 वर्षों में नहीं हुआ वो 2014 में हुआ। पूर्ण बहुमत की सरकार आप सबके आशीर्वाद से नरेंद्र मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में बनी। मित्रों, उससे पहले चुनौतियां छोटी नहीं बहुत बड़ी थी। अटल जी जहां तक अर्थव्यवस्था को आगे पहुंचाकर गए थे, उन 10 सालों में भी अर्थव्यवस्था वहीं पर खड़ी थी। लड़खड़ाती चरमराती अर्थव्यवस्था 2013-14 में लोग कहते थे आगे क्या। लेकिन 9 वर्षों के बाद हम कह सकते हैं, लड़खड़ाती चरमराती नहीं, दुनिया में सबसे तेजी से आगे भागती हुई अर्थव्यवस्था हमारे भारत की आज अंग्रेजों को पीछे छोड़कर दुनिया की 5वीं सबसे बड़ी अर्थव्यवस्था बन गई है। और इसके पीछे माननीय मोदी जी का नेतृत्व तो मिला ही, वित्त मंत्री के रूप में माननीय सीतारमन जी ने, मैंने देखा है बहुत करीबी से काम करते हुए 2019 से 2021 तक वित्त राज्य मंत्री के रूप में। बहुत कठिन परिस्थितियां थी, कोविड का समय था, तो कुछ लोग कहते थे इकोनॉमी बचाओ, कुछ लोग कहते थे जान बचाओ। मोदी जी ने कहा जान है तो जहान है, फिर कहा जान भी जहान भी। और उस समय जब देश सोचता नहीं था कि कैसे आगे बढ़ेंगे, अपने वैज्ञानिकों को कोविड वैक्सीन बनाने पर लगाया। एक नहीं 2-2 वैक्सीन भारत ने लगाई और मुफ्त में 220 करोड़ वैक्सीन डोज बिल्कुल मुफ्त में लगवाने का काम भी किया। और मैं भारत की बात कर रहा हूं, जहां पर पिछले 50-60 सालों में वैक्सीन इंपोर्ट ही होती थी अधिकतर, कई सालों तक। और यही नहीं, उस समय सबसे बड़ी चुनौती थी कि क्या भारत अपनी आबादी का पेट भर पाएगा, नहीं भर पाएगा। मोदी जी ने अन्न के भंडार भी खोल दिए। 80 करोड़ गरीबों को 28 महीने तक अगर मुफ्त में राशन देने का काम किसी सरकार ने दुनिया भर में किया है तो नरेंद्र मोदी जी की सरकार ने 28 महीने तक किया है। 4 लाख करोड़ रुपए के लगभग उसके ऊपर खर्च आया है। अब उस समय चुनौतियां थी कि क्या उद्योग बंद हो जाएंगे, बचेंगे। बहुत सारी योजनाएं हम लेकर आए, बैंकों से पैसा भी, इमरजेंसी क्रेडिट लाइन गारंटी स्कीम भी उस समय दिलाई, जिसके कारण आज हमारे उद्योग बचे भी हैं, आगे बढ़े भी हैं। लेकिन सबसे बड़ी बात यह है कि निर्मला जी ने उस समय मोदी जी की सरकार में स्टार्टअप्स को जिस तरह से आगे बढ़ने का अवसर दिया, आज हम गर्व के साथ कह सकते हैं हमारे युवाओं ने दुनिया में 3rd लार्जेस्ट स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम भारत का बनाने का काम किया। 1 लाख के लगभग स्टार्टअप्स है और उसमें से 100 यूनिकॉर्न का दर्जा प्राप्त किए हैं। यह बहुत बड़ी उपलब्धि भारत के युवाओं की है। मित्रों, अगर आप सरकार के 9 वर्ष देखेंगे तो इसके पीछे सेवा, ये भाव है, सोच है। सुशासन हमारी कार्यप्रणाली है, वे ऑफ वर्किंग है, वर्किंग स्टाइल है। और कहीं ना कहीं डिजिटल टेक्नोलॉजी का इस्तेमाल करके, ट्रांसपेरेंसी, अकाउंटेबिलिटी लाके हमने सिस्टम को और सुधारा है। पाई पाई को बचाकर गरीबों की भलाई पर खर्च किया है। और आज मैं कह सकता हूं, अगर देश में 3.5 करोड़ लोगों को पक्के मकान बनाकर दे दिए, 12 करोड़ शौचालय बनाकर दे दिए, 11 करोड़ 70 लाख घरों को नल से जल देने का काम किया, 9 करोड़ 60 लाख बहनों को रसोई गैस के सिलेंडर मुफ्त में दिए, 80 करोड़ गरीबों को मुफ्त में अनाज दिया, हर गांव तक बिजली पहुंचाने का काम किया, 100 करोड़ से ज़्यादा LED बल्ब देने का काम किया, सड़कें पहले के मुकाबले 4 गुना ज़्यादा बनानी शुरू कर दी। वहीं पर PM गति शक्ति के माध्यम से नया आधारभूत ढांचा इस नए भारत में बनाने का काम पिछले 9 वर्षों में रिकॉर्ड गति और प्रगति अगर आपको देखने को मिली तो नरेंद्र मोदी जी की सरकार में देखने को मिली। ये तब संभव हो पाया जब आपने एक ईमानदार नेता को एक बार नहीं, दूसरी बार फिर अपनी सेवा करने का अवसर दिया। कई बार तो ये सोचने में नहीं आता, मेरे सामने खिलाड़ी बैठे हैं और मैं जब इनकी ओर देखता हूं तो पहले के समय, मैं अखिल जी को देख के कह रहा था कि पहले के समय, आपके समय सुविधाएं कैसी थी? क्योंकि मेरे समय में तो हम लोग, हालांकि क्रिकेट बाकियों से बेहतर थी, लेकिन हमने वो भी समय देखा जब अपना ही बैग उठाकर, कंबल उठाकर, कपड़े उठाकर, किट उठाकर सब चलना पड़ता था। कई बार बगैर बुकिंग के ट्रेन के जनरल बोगी में बैठकर बाहर टांगे पसार कर बैठना पड़ता था। आज वहां से मोदी जी ने कहां पहुंचा दिया। 864 करोड़ रुपए का बजट था, जो 2700 करोड़ रुपया कर दिया है। लगभग 3 गुना से ज्यादा खिलाड़ियों के लिए बजट भी कर दिया। और यही नहीं, खेलो इंडिया जैसी योजना चलाकर खेलो इंडिया यूथ गेम्स, यूनिवर्सिटी गेम्स और विंटर गेम्स की शुरुआत की। 15,000 से ज्यादा खिलाड़ी उसमें भाग लेते हैं। और पिछली बार के खेलो इंडिया यूथ गेम्स में तो 25 नेशनल रिकॉर्ड टूटे और उनमें से 21 नेशनल रिकॉर्ड बेटियों ने तोड़ने का काम किया है, भारत की बेटियों ने। ऋषभ शेट्टी जी को सुना कि नहीं सुना आपने? फिल्म भी देखी है कि नहीं देखी है? मैंने तो 2 बार देख ली। और ये अपना कीमती समय निकालकर हम सबके बीच में आए, मैं आपका भी बहुत बहुत स्वागत, अभिनंदन सबकी ओर से करता हूं। एक और ऋषभ शेट्टी जी हैं जो अच्छी फिल्में बनाते थे, रितेश अग्रवाल जी हैं जो नए के नए होटल खोलने का काम करते हैं। अमान अली जी से अयान अली जी तक देखा जाए, विवेन रस्किना जी से लेकर बाकियों तक देखा जाए, एक से बड़ा नाम मोदी सरकार के 9 वर्षों के इस कार्यक्रम में आए हैं। क्योंकि सबको लगा कि समाज के हर वर्ग के लिए कुछ ना कुछ करने का काम किया। मित्रों, लगभग 3 महीने पहले सुंदर पिचई यहां पर थे और मुझे यहीं दिल्ली में कार्यक्रम में मिले तो कहने लगे कि मुझे तो कई बार यकीन नहीं होता। मैंने कहा किस बात का? कहते मैं अभी भी अपने कोविड वैक्सीन के सर्टिफिकेट को लेकर अभी भी हार्ड कॉपी लेकर चलता हूं। और मेरे अपने भारत में, मैं सिलिकॉन वैली में हूं, दुनिया की बड़ी कंपनी का सीईओ हूं, लेकिन वहां पर तो नहीं, लेकिन मेरे भारत में डिजिटल कॉपी मुफ्त वैक्सीन के साथ देने का काम नरेंद्र मोदी जी की सरकार ने किया, जो शायद कोई और कर पाया। दूसरा, जब गूगल के वाइस प्रेसिडेंट यहां से हिंदुस्तान से वापस जाते हैं तो भारत के यूपीआई डिजिटल प्लेटफॉर्म की बात करते हैं कि क्या है। वहां अभी भी लोग चेक काट रहे थे कोविड के समय और घर पे लोग नहीं थे तो चेक वहीं पड़े थे। यहां नरेंद्र मोदी जी एक बटन दबाते थे और 21 करोड़ महिलाओं के खाते में 31,000 करोड़ रुपया ट्रांसफर हो जाता था। यह भारत की ताकत है, यह डिजिटल पेमेंट की ताकत है। यह बड़ा बदलाव देश में देखने को मिला है। निर्मला जी, मैं आपका भी, आदरणीय मोदी जी का भी धन्यवाद करना चाहता हूं, क्योंकि देश में जो 3.5 करोड़ घर मिले हैं वो मिले तो परिवारों को हैं, लेकिन 75% रजिस्ट्रियां महिलाओं के नाम पर हुई हैं। मालकिन महिला बनी है, लखपति दीदी बनी है हमारी, जिसको घर का जो सपना था वो भी पक्का करने का काम हुआ है। मित्रों, यही नहीं, नरेंद्र मोदी जी दुनिया के किसी भी देश में गए, भारत का मान सम्मान लगातार बढ़ा है। लेकिन अभी की G7 की मीटिंग हो या फिर ऑस्ट्रेलिया का दौरा हो या बाकी अन्य देशों के राष्ट्रपति और प्रधानमंत्री से मिलने का अवसर हो, क्या क्या नहीं कहते दुनिया के लोग। इटली के प्रधानमंत्री ने क्या कहा, मोदी जी के बारे में कहा कि मोदी जी इज द मोस्ट लव्ड लीडर अमंग द वर्ल्ड लीडर्स। दूसरा, रशियन प्रेसिडेंट ने क्या कहा, ही इज अ ग्रेट पैट्रियट मोदी जी के बारे में। कईयों ने तो ऑटोग्राफ तक लेने की बात कह दी और कईयों ने पांव छूकर गले लगा लिया, अभिनंदन किया, और कईयों ने तो कह दिया पीएम मोदी इज द बॉस। मैंने सुबह भी इस बात को इसलिए कहा था क्योंकि ये एक की नहीं, मोदी जी का सम्मान नहीं, 130 करोड़ भारतीयों का सम्मान है। ये तब है मित्रों जब आपने एक ईमानदार व्यक्ति को चुना जो 17 घंटे की फ्लाइट और 6 दिन में 50 मीटिंग करके लैंड करने के 2 घंटे के बाद फिर काम पे लग जाता है, देश के लिए समर्पित हो जाता है, जिनकी माता जी की मृत्यु के बाद चिता को अग्नि देने के 2 घंटे के अंदर देश के लिए फिर कार्यक्रम करने शुरू कर देते हैं। हमने पिछले 75 वर्षों में शायद ही कोई ऐसा नेता देखा हो जो इतने समर्पित भाव से देश के लिए काम कर रहा है, वो आपने ही देश को दिया है, आपकी एक एक वोट ने दिया है। इसके लिए मैं आपका बहुत बहुत आभार प्रकट करता हूं, अभिनंदन, धन्यवाद करता हूं। हम लोग कई बार जाते हैं तो देखते हैं कि पहले जिनके लिए एयरपोर्ट की ओर देखना मुश्किल काम होता था, वो हवाई चप्पल पहन के आज हवाई जहाज में भी बैठते हैं। जिनको सफर दूर लगता था, मैं हिमाचल प्रदेश में आता हूं, पहाड़ी राज्यों में बहुत मुश्किल होता है सफर करना। वहां के 50 किलोमीटर सफर करने में भी आपको 2 घंटे कम से कम लगेंगे। लेकिन इस सरकार में क्या बदला है? अगर आप कीरतपुर, बिलासपुर, मंडी, मनाली हाईवे को देखेंगे, जहां 8 घंटे का रास्ता है, अब मात्र 4 घंटे का रास्ता रह जाएगा। जहां 217 किलोमीटर की सड़क धर्मशाला से लेकर शिमला की है, अब केवल 170 किलोमीटर रह जाएगी। 7 घंटे का रास्ता 3.5 घंटे का रह जाएगा। कभी सोचा ना था, वो भी पूरा होने जा रहा है। ऐसी बहुत सारी बातें जो कभी स्वप्न लगती थी, आज वो सच्चाई लगती हैं। वो तब हो पाई जब नरेंद्र मोदी जी की सरकार आप सबने बनाई, और उसमें निर्मला जी ने हमारी अर्थव्यवस्था को बचाकर आगे बढ़ाने का काम किया है। आज दुनिया भर के देशों को उम्मीद कहीं नजर आती है तो भारत में, भारतीयों में और भारत के नेतृत्व में। और यही उम्मीद हमें और मजबूती दिलाती है और ये विश्वास दिलाती है कि हम जो पहले सोचते भी नहीं थे, हम उससे आगे सोच सकते हैं कि हमारा देश कहां हो, क्योंकि हमें ही नहीं, अब दुनिया को भी भारत में उम्मीद नजर आती है। इस उम्मीद को बरकरार रखना है, निरंतर जारी रखना है। वी नीड द कॉन्टिन्यूटी एंड द स्टेबिलिटी, एंड फॉर दैट योर रोल इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, एंड आई एम श्योर you will play your role to make India the विकसित भारत, the developed India। और हमारा ये सपना 2047 का है, लेकिन मुझे पूर्ण विश्वास है जिस गति के साथ मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में सरकार चल रही है, 2047 का हम इंतजार करने वाले नहीं, उससे पहले ही विकसित भारत बनाएंगे। आप सबका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। जय भारत, जय हिंद।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद माननीय मंत्री महोदय अनुराग सिंह ठाकुर जी, आपका इन तमाम आशीर्वचनों के लिए, नववर्ष के सफर को रेखांकित करने के लिए।
और अब बिना रुके, बिना थके, बिना किसी अवकाश के लगातार 9 साल तक प्रधान सेवक के रूप में जब प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने काम किया, तो नतीजे जमीन पर खिलखिलाते नजर आते हैं।
और इन नतीजों को जमीन पर उतारने में बड़ी भूमिका निभाने वाली आज के इस सत्र की मुख्य अतिथि वित्त मंत्री श्रीमती निर्मला सीतारमण जी को अब हम बहुत ही आदर और सम्मान के साथ आमंत्रित करते हैं कि कृपया वो आएं और हम सभी को संबोधित करें। श्रीमती निर्मला सीतारमण जी, जोरदार तालियां।
Good evening to all of you all. I'm extremely grateful to Minister Anurag Thakur and also Minister Murugan for having given me this opportunity to be with you all this evening. I understand you've been here since the morning discussing as to what exactly these 9 years have given people of India. So I'll try to flag off some issues. I'm not going to get into details about data. This is what has been achieved. This is what has been obtained in the last 9 years compared to any other. That I think enough and more is being said. And I also understand the ministry has prepared 2 very concise booklets which are being distributed in Hindi and English. Strictly speaking, there's so much to say. Actually, so much has been done with the help of every citizen of this country, because governments may come with policies, governments may come with schemes, but ultimately it has got to be executed with people's participation. If that is not there, achievement is not possible at all. And therefore, for every one claim that we make, for having had the leadership and guidance of Honorable Prime Minister Modi, there is that element which goes unsaid, that it is achieved with the participation of the people. However, without having to go into the details of what has been achieved, because that's there in your hands, I want you all to, because you're young, you're so full of energy, and you're here with a certain dedication and commitment. I want to put before you all 3 or 4 things which cover the topic of the day, Seva, Sushasan, and also Garib Kalyan. That's the 3 key words which are being used here to talk about the 9 years. So even as I talk about these 3, I want to place before you those which are very difficult to put in terms of statistics. But in nation building, I can see a lot of young, particularly girls, representing the NCC. In nation building, there are some qualities which are very important. They can be in us, or they can be seen in others, and we can take them from them for some particular work or in our daily lives. That is why during the freedom movement, all of us were meaning people of our age at that time, the entire country was attracted to the leadership then, Mahatma Gandhi, Sardar Patel, for the South, Rajagopalachari, so many others who came from different states, all together for one cause, and that one cause was get India out of this foreign rule. And in that, each one leader had his own traits, qualities, which made us feel, look at that. That's the kind of, you had a lady, I'm sure many of you all would have heard, Sarojini Naidu, who wrote poems, who was with Mahatma Gandhi, who was participant in the Congress-led freedom movement. She was very good. Aruna Asaf Ali, who was a firebrand. So you had people from whom you could get that trait and say, like that person, I want to be committed in nation building. Now gradually, post-independence, many of these wonderful qualities became diluted, they evaporated, and for us there were no such imagery of people who stood out for certain qualities of achievement, and as a result the country was going in its own speed. There were no motivational forces which made us all feel that we want to go along and build this country. In between, of course, there were great heroes who achieved a lot for the country, either being in defense or being in that one sport. And today I know a lot of sports persons are here. And our INB ministry and also the sports ministry has done so much of late for sports. You heard the minister tell you about the amounts and the monies involved. But they were largely confined to, let us say, cricket or hockey for some time. So those kind of team games were the ones which were prominent because for whatever reason they came up. But today you have a javelin gold from Olympic. Who would have imagined that for a few years ago? So icons in sports, the boxing hero, the Northeast which is coming up with great sports persons. So there are several happening now. And why now? Why not 10, 15 years ago? Why now? Why not 20 years ago? So if you take the example of sports, you can have some answers coming. You can also look at immediate past years saying, why? What happened? Similarly, you can take for very many sectors of activity. The point that I want to put before you today, even as we recall the 9 years where we've done so many things at so many different levels, with the Seva Bhav, and at the same time looking at good governance. This country needs good institutions. This country needs transparent processes through which we get ourselves governed. You don't vote for a government which should be corrupt. Do we vote? No. We vote for a government which will be good, which will be doing good for the people. But when, say, 10 years ago, we were all struggling, saying, how are we going to live with a government which is giving us a news of a corruption every morning, new one every morning? You open up the paper in the morning, you see new corruption charges coming out. Then you open up the papers that year or even before that, saying one party in the coalition is pulling the government in one direction, another party is pulling in another direction. So you gave up. Almost every Indian thought there is no redemption. There is no redemption at all for India. There is no way in which we can have a good government. This is how it's going to be. So people were disillusioned. They thought if there are countries which had good government, why is it not possible in India? Now, contrast that picture with what we have in the last 9 years. So other than the data which is being put before you, 6 kilometers of road earlier, now we're doing 24 kilometers, whatever data, every data which is being put there is absolutely factual. Multiple times in each one of those categories, we've improved our performance. So, but beyond that, there is something that I want to tell you. Mindset has changed. Those governing have changed their mindset. People who voted for such a government see the change in mindset even among our friends and families. Mindset change comes when the government trusts people and when people trust the government in turn. Prime Minister Modi, he'll never do anything wrong. He'll never do anything against the country. He'll always be energetic enough to serve the country. When I said Seva above, that's the point. So if you compare it with the earlier government, you'll know we had no hope. We thought corruption is the only thing in this country will be known for. People left doing business in this country saying, I can't anymore give money to run my business. People left the country and went away. But today, there is a mindset change in India that it is possible to have a government which will be responsive, which will relate to the people, which will do things for people's good. And that's what is Prime Minister Modi's leadership. And that is why even today, compared to very many global leaders, he is more popular in this country than their leaders in their respective countries. And this is not something which you can earn easily. That trust, that confidence of the people saying, no, this Prime Minister will never do wrong. That kind of a trust and faith is not earned easily. And that is why when I say, when these data are all factual, you see in your neighborhood houses being provided for people who are poor. One Prime Minister who never, earning the trust, I give you another example, who didn't shy away from talking things which are not so good in this country. From Red Fort he says, our women are not safe. Why don't you mothers tell your boys? Where were you in the evening? What were you doing? Instead of just telling the girls, come back home before it gets dark, you will not be safe being outside. Here was a Prime Minister who said, we need change in our mindsets. Tell your boys to behave. As much you ensure that your girls are safe. Didn't he say that from Red Fort? Here is a Prime Minister who actually feels for the families and says things, saying all of us will have to look at the way we bring up our children, boys and girls. And similarly, he spoke about how many girls, because of want of resources, want of affordable sanitary pads, were leading very unhealthy lives. And made it a point not only say from Red Fort, but made it a point to give it, distribute it at an affordable price of just 1 rupee for a pad. These are not small mindset change issues. These are not at all small things. Many leaders will shy away from addressing these issues. Not only did he address, our Prime Minister made sure that he further followed it up with good action. So, to earn the trust of the people, here is a leader who repeatedly understands issues from a common person's perspective, from a common person's understanding of how life is. And that is why when he responds And I give you this example. Anurag ji was with me at that time in the ministry. We were so worried as to how long this pandemic lockdown was going to go. How long will this go on? And we need to have vaccines developed. Developed vaccines should come out, and that many number will have to be manufactured. Similarly, there were these questions of how many vaccines can we buy from outside? And for that, how much money will have to be kept ready? In all this, even as we were discussing this, and even as this whole thought made Honorable Prime Minister make sure that he was talking to the scientific community saying, get ready with vaccines. Even then, that one advice which I was given in absolutely firm words, you will not raise money to fund this. You will not bring new tax in the name of COVID. That was the instruction I had from the PM. We have not raised 1 paisa in the name of a COVID cess. We didn't charge the people to find vaccines. We didn't charge the people to distribute food for the poor. So no raising tax was his understanding, saying, no way. We are now in a situation where people don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, how long they will be kept in their jobs, how many of them will be sent out of their jobs. At this stage, we will not touch anybody's money. And not only that time, after that also. After that also, taxes have not been raised at all. There are sometimes people say, oh, but your duty on, excise duty on petrol is high. Petrol is an imported commodity. The prices go up, prices come down, the oil marketing companies import them. And then refine them and they get distributed. So the charges there are very different from, other than that, raising taxes. So I want to put that before you. So mindset of both the people and the leadership, that India should be perceived as a good country, taking care of its people, even during war, even during COVID, even during the uncertainties post-COVID. Prime Minister never sat back to say, don't do anything now to clean up the economy. If there are archaic laws based on which some people are making money, corrupt practices are going on, if there are some dead rules which don't need to be in the system, we should be clear that that doesn't become an instrument to harass citizens, remove them. 1,500 archaic laws were thrown out of the system because we don't want them to become a tool for corruption. That was done by Honorable Prime Minister. These are not things which you get merit or they don't become a big, achievement from the point of view of common sense. So what? Yeah, so you removed these laws, so what? Small businesses were being troubled by not every officer, but there can be all that one odd officer who can misuse it and the life can become difficult. He removed it. Tough decisions on bringing one tax, one law, one nation, one tax, GST, was taken by this government. 10 years negotiations kept happening between state and center. Center did not have the confidence in the central government, state governments did not have confidence in the central government. During UPA rule, 10 years from 2010, we are hearing this. 4 years after that, no improvement, and before that also no discussion. But today, what is the ease which all of us are enjoying? Otherwise, from moving from one state to another state, you had to pay toll tax. Your vehicle was paying more and more tax by the time it reached the destination. There are people here doing business. You are here, you will be able to tell me about it. All this has simplified our lives. Otherwise, I know from the south, a lot of people used to come to Delhi to buy a simple Maruti 800 car and take it down south because the tax was less in Delhi, but it was more in the south. So who benefited with all these kind of differentiated tax structures? Sometimes some items like toothpaste would have more than one item on which the tax was levied. So more than 2 or 3 taxes you're paying on a toothpaste every morning that you use. These have been removed by PM. Similarly, you start a business. Today, a lot of startups are there. They sometimes find it difficult and they honorably close their business, exit and go away. It wasn't possible earlier. To close the business and go out used to be a shame. People say, "Hey, band kar diya inka business, chalu nahi hai. Inko chalana nahi aata." There was a stigma in the mind. Mindset again got changed. Because honorably, you were able to come out of business saying, "I can't run it anymore, I'm shutting it, I'll go start something else new." The insolvency bankruptcy code was brought in by Prime Minister Modi. So young people can start a business, try their luck. If they're doing well, they can continue, or else shut it honorably and go out. I'm not going to take too long. I know it's getting late for you all, but a few more things. Again, more inspired by seeing the NCC girls here. In the Army, in the Navy, in the Air Force, I have Jayant here before me, who has been in the Defense Ministry, knows how. For a temporary position, you can always get enrolled, but after that you will have to go away if you're a girl. For permanent commissioning, it was always available only for boys. Women could never aspire to get into the armed forces. Who brought that change? And the armed forces had their own reservations, right or wrong, I'm not getting into that, saying, no, we can't take girls in permanent position. Working with them, changing their mindsets, similarly working with colleges, young girls who were all saying, we want to get into the armed forces, why not? Understanding that aspiration of India's youth, Prime Minister worked with the defense forces and said, you have to open up. No longer can this work. And finally, he succeeded that today, even in the frontline positions, there are women officers getting posted. Now armed forces recruit, inclusive of Coast Guard, Air Force, Army and Navy, all recruit women. It is a huge change. It is a huge change. And this kind of a change cannot happen unless the leadership is committed, unless that leadership works with every stakeholder to change their mindset. India is a very complex country. India is a very complex country. Decision making goes through different times, different layers. Unless you have a visionary leadership which believes that the aspiration in the ground has to be respected, and he knows how the government system works, without upsetting anyone, gradually get every change through. That's the change which Prime Minister Modi has come up with. And that is the change I want you all to recognize. So if the mindset of Indians are changing, they are seeing that there is a government which is working, which is responding to people's aspirations. It is responding to so many things and therefore making the system work for the people. Mindset outside India is also changing. People are seeing how there is a committed, dedicated government which puts India's interest first. Otherwise, do you think it is possible, even after the war is now continuing for more than 1 year, to halt the war in Ukraine, asking Ukraine to hold ceasefire and asking Russia to hold ceasefire and making sure that every one of our students are safely brought back to this country? Do you think it's possible? The mindset change outside, that there is a leader, there is a government in India which puts India's interest first. You want your citizens to be safe. You want your people to be brought back to safety, which is a legal right of yours. Why wouldn't you want to exert that? Yemen, where there was a ravaging war, ship was sent, huge ship was sent. Navy sent its ship and brought our Indians back, other than the flights which went. Sudan, every part where there has been Indian lives, who are all caught up in a difficult situation, has been treated safely and brought them back, whereas even developed countries don't do that even today. Many of our own citizens are saying, US citizens were there, I was holding a paper as a flag, and little paper only, it was crushed, but it is Indian flag. They said, oh, you're Indian, go there, your country is taking you back. Others were waiting. They didn't have any such a facility done by their own governments. So we may still be an emerging market country. We may still not yet be a developed country. But Prime Minister Modi's government takes every Indian seriously, whether he's in India or whether he's abroad, whether he's comfortable in one place or in distress in some other place. Every citizen is heard and every citizen is responded to. That is the kind of government I'll be very proud of. That's the government I'll be proud of as a citizen of this country. So that is the mindset change which even a government has today, that Indian government feels that every citizen is important, his life is important for him and his family and for us, and we get them back. The mindset change is something which you can keep testing against this government repeatedly. No little temptation has been yielded to by anybody. No corruption. 9 years. Not a whiff of corruption. Now today, corruption doesn't seem to irritate us at all. But do you realize what impact it had on us? When a corruption blows out, the country's image is shattered, people's money is being exploited. What you pay as tax is being eaten up by somebody, whereas it is not coming down to the roads or the ports or the harbors that you need for our development. So that mindset change. And then of course the Seva Bhav, that's why the government and the party were all working for COVID affected citizens, carrying food, carrying medicines, getting PPE kits made. From importer of PPE kits, we've become exporter of PPE kits, all within a matter of 2 years. Making Seva part of your work, that's the quality which we are imbibing from Prime Minister. And of course, Garib Kalyan, Anurag ji has expanded a lot, I don't need to expand on it. But I appeal to all the young minds here. The emphasis that sports has received in the last few years. Emphasis that young talents have received in the last few years. Working for a podium position in Olympics is not something which is difficult. Any government could have done it. But did any government do it is the question. You have a Prime Minister like Modi who says, no, you ensure that every aspirational sports person gets his best chance. So there is not one area of activity which the Prime Minister has left unattended. I draw your attention before I close to the way in which Padma awards are being given in this country. Earlier, people who had some connection with people in Delhi, people who had some connection with people who were in power, managed to get Padma this year, but just Padma Shri. After a few years, Padma Bhushan. Again, after a few years, Padma Vibhushan. And that cycle kept on happening. But now, under Prime Minister Modi, there is a committee of good people sitting and seeing all over the country who are those people who we don't even know. For all you know, that person is living in my neighborhood. We don't even know about them. but they're doing brilliant, selfless work. And should they not be recognized? Only such people have received Padma Awards in the last 8-9 years. We are coming to know such wonderful people who did not get 1 penny of benefit from the government, but dug a road, laid a pathway from the village because his wife couldn't get timely medical attention. He says, that halat should not be affecting others in the village, so I'll lay the road. And the rest of the village benefits from that good deed. Does that person need to be recognized or not? PM says, yes, you should recognize, get them from wherever they are and give them a Padma Award. So it's become a people's award. A mindset change again. Recognize even those people who you wouldn't even recognize in your own neighborhood, but for the brilliant work that they've done. So India is now a country which believes in its own strength. Even if it believed earlier, there was no recognition for it. So there can immediately be voices from opposition parties saying, oh what, 2014 only onwards that you have belief in yourself? No. Belief and recognition. Belief and trust. Belief and facilitation. Belief and responding to people. These are the kind of mindset changes which are so required for a young nation to move forward with hope. And that's what Prime Minister Modi offers. And without taking more time, I appeal to you all at this juncture. The data is there before you, you can always test it. But unless we understand that leadership matters, unless we understand core ethical values of being clean, of being dedicated, of wanting to serve the country, you're not going to have earnest attempt at building India. And it is that earnest attempt which should appeal to the young. Your ideology, when you're young, your ideology should be, that's the kind of leadership that will take India forward. That is why at the beginning I spoke about freedom movement, the kind of people we kept ourselves before. And said, oh, these are the kind of people we should become. We should take this country forward, so we should be there. Now, you can see that happening with Prime Minister Modi. And therefore, my humble appeal to you is data can prove so many things. But the intent of the person, the seva bhav of the person, the dedication of the person, and the way in which he has shown in the last few years as to how the entire country can be taken together. You can be in rural areas, you can just be a farmer cultivating small grains, or you can be a person just doing one little artwork in your village, or you can just be doing very little of your family's trade, but remembering a cause for the village. All of them have been given a role, recognition, and appreciation. India needs this and many more of such. And that is why my humble appeal is look at what has happened in the last 8-9 years. Ideally, look at what should be happening in the next several years. Give stability to this country. We don't want uncertainties, morning, afternoon, evening, this person is getting out of the government, that person is corrupt, a third person is having a, challenge to the existing leadership. We don't want any of these horse trading nonsense. We need a stable government so that all your and all our futures are ensured, so that India can be a completely developed country, so that you don't have to go through what all of us have gone through. Waiting in queues for gas cylinder, waiting for more than 1.5, 2 years even to get a small scooter. I was in JNU at that time as a student. I know the first time Piaggio, an Italian scooter company, had come to India. Scooters used to be produced by them. They said this will be out in the market from November this year. People had to pay advance money, book it, and wait for 10 months. to get a scooter. India's changed today. We don't want to go back to the terror. We need to move fast. So my humble appeal, young minds, have a look at what's happened the last 9 years at all levels. Look at the leadership which is so dedicated for putting India's interest first. And we need a steady, strong leadership to make that possible for all of us, that by 2047, you, the young of India today, will have an India you can be proud of. Thank you very much.
जोरदार तालियां लगातार बजती रहनी चाहिए। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपका वित्त मंत्री महोदया जी। बीते 9 वर्षों में कैसे नेक नियत से जमीन पे संस्थागत बदलाव के साथ में आम लोगों की जिंदगी को बेहतर बनाया गया है। बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया इन 9 सालों के सफर को हमारे सामने रखने के लिए।
And now I request Honorable Secretary, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, Apurva Chandrajeev, to propose vote of thanks. Sir.
First of all, I would like to thank the Honorable Finance Minister for being with us even in this very busy day when the Niti Aayog meeting is taking place. Under the guidance of Prime Minister, she has been leading first the country in defense and now in finance very ably. And today, when we are holding our head proud, it is because of so many decisions taken during the COVID period by the Honorable Prime Minister and Honorable Finance Minister, that today India is the leading country in GDP growth, while countries like Germany have entered into recession, and so many others in Western world are on the cusp of recession, and inflation in our country is still controlled. I would like to thank the Honorable Minister for Information and Broadcasting and the Minister of State for Information and Broadcasting for having guided us in organizing this conclave. I would like to thank all the panelists in the 3 sessions which we had today for giving beautiful insights into the various aspects. If I am to sum up the discussions which took place in the 3 sessions, मैं इतना ही कहूंगा कि जैसे जो हमारा पहला सेशन था इंडिया सर्जिंग अहेड, हमारी बहुत आज विश्व में बहुत सारी एजेंसीज हैं जो कि तरह तरह के इंडिसेस निकालती हैं किसी डुबियस मेथडोलॉजी से, पर अब इंडिया सर्जिंग अहेड का अगर हम जिक्र करें तो मैं पूरे विश्वास के साथ कह सकता हूं कि अगर आज की वो एजेंसी यहाँ रही होती तो हम वो ये निश्चित तौर पे कहती कि बिजनेस कॉन्फिडेंस इंडेक्स में भारत बहुत आगे है। ऐसे ही दूसरा सेशन था हमारा जन जन का विश्वास, उस पे भी हमारा यही अंतिम we can conclude that the consumer confidence index in India is very high. The last session was on youth, and after listening to the discussions, one can say that India ranks very high on the happiness index. And as the minister said, seeing the enthusiasm of this crowd, having been here from morning to evening, we can finally conclude that if there is an index of government confidence index, then India would definitely be number 1 in that. Thank you.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सचिव महोदय आपका।
इसी के साथ नेशनल कॉन्क्लेव, सेवा, सुशासन और गरीब कल्याण के 9 साल का ये कार्यक्रम यहाँ पर समाप्त होता है। आप सभी का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, बहुत बहुत आभार, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। 9 साल का ये सफर किस प्रकार से हर एक आम व्यक्ति के जीवन में बेहतरी लेकर आया है, इस सबको आज हमने दिन भर यहाँ रेखांकित किया, समझने का प्रयास किया किस तरीके से बदलाव आए हैं 9 साल में।
Since morning we have seen and heard and realized the story of India rising, India shining, how India continues to surge ahead under the leadership and Prime Ministership of Narendra Modi ji. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. With that, it's curtains down for the valedictory function of the National Conclave, 9 years of Modi government. Namaskar.
Namaskar.
विज्ञान भवन से सीधा प्रसारण आप देख रहे थे जी कॉन्क्लेव, जिसमें 9 साल जो प्रधानमंत्री